my goodness, kindergarten, it is Friday. We are going to read our story one more time today, but first, let's check out this question. It says, who helps to build a house? Well, we learned about so many different people that help to build a house. Let's go check them all out now. The first person we learned about that helps us build a house is the architect. The architects draw up the plans so that we know what the house is going to look like and what materials we need to build it. They also make a small 3D model of it. Next up, we learned about the electricians. The electricians run wires through the house so that you can have things like electricity. That way you can power your tablets, you can power your televisions, you can power your lights, your refrigerators, all of the things that you need so that you can stay entertained right now, kindergarten. Next up, we have plumbers. So just like electricians who run wires through our house, the plumbers run pipes through our house so that we can get running water in our house. So the different areas that you get running water are your bathroom, your kitchens, your washing machines. Kindergarten, this whole time I've been talking about the refrigerators, the sinks, the toilets. Of course your washing machines need water too. Oh, I probably forgot because it's been a couple days since I've done laundry. I need to go do that today. Next up, kindergarten, after our plumbers, we talk about our painters. Our painters paint our houses. They could paint them on the inside or on the outside. What color is your house? What color is your bedroom? What color is your living room, kindergarten? How many different colors can you find in your house? Ooh, that sounds like a fun idea. I want you to go around and count how many different colors are in your house on the walls and how many different colors are on the outside of your house on the walls and the shutters. All right, kindergarten, next up we have landscapers. Landscapers help to plant beautiful plants around our house. They help to plant trees and flowers and bushes because they make our homes look nice and healthy. And of course, I love having plants around my house because they make me feel closer to God because I know God created them all. The last person we have that helps us build our house are movers. Movers help to move all of our furniture into the new houses. Now, there are a couple people that we didn't talk about who help us build our houses. That would be like the construction workers. They are probably the most important job. The construction workers actually build that house, kindergarten, and it is so cool if you ever watch construction workers work. All right, kindergarten, let's go check out one more time what our comprehension skill was this week. Our comprehension skill this week, kindergarten, says, I can describe the setting. I can describe the setting. I can tell where the setting is, but I can also tell you the things that I might hear there, things that I might smell or see or taste or touch. Kindergarten, the setting tells us where the story happens, but we can use our 5 senses to experience the setting around us. Kindergarten, this week we are talking about the setting of a story, where the story happens. So get yourselves cozy one more time. Make sure that you have your eyes closed. Maybe you want to hear the outside sounds right now. We have our story to read one more time, and I love this story because it makes me feel super relaxed. Okay, here we go. This is called A House by the Sea by Joanne Ryder. If I could live in a little house, I'd live in a house by the sea. Some days I'd visit the frisky seals, and some days they'd visit me. If you lived in a house by the sea, what kind of creatures would you see? You'd definitely see seals. We'd walk in the rain, those seals and I, till we'd stop for a slice of fish-eyed pie. Would you eat that? I don't think I'd eat that. When I got too wet or they got too dry, we'd hug and we'd run and we'd yell, goodbye. I'd watch and I'd wave to those seals in the sea, and their flippers would splash and wave back at me. If I could live in a little house, I'd live in a house by the sea. And I'd whisper at night when the moon was bright, would you please give a wish to me? And I'd wish I could fly in a star-speckled sky and wash my face in a cloud. And I'd sing to the moon a silly sea tune till he laughed and laughed out loud. How would you make the moon laugh, kindergarten? If you could make the moon laugh, how would you do it? Then I'd land on a whale with a black and white tail who would rock me fast asleep. And she'd carry me home on a crust of foam over the waters deep. What's a crust of foam? It says that she'd land on a tail, a whale with a black and white tail who would rock her fast asleep, and she'd carry her home on a crest of foam over the waters deep. So what is a crest of foam? If you ever look at a wave, the top part of that wave, it's all foamy. Have you ever blown lots of bubbles into like your milk and it gets all foamy at the top? That's what happens to the top of a wave. So if you get permission from your grown-ups later today, ask for a glass of milk and ask if you can blow bubbles into it with a straw. That way you can see all the foam. Water's not going to work too well because our water is pretty pure, which means there's not like salt or anything in it. So if you get a glass of milk, you can see all the foaminess at the top if you blow bubbles. If I could live in a little house, I'd live in a house by the sea. An octopus would live next door and take good care of me. With an arm doing this and an arm doing that, he'd cook and make my bed. He'd sweep the floor and paint my walls and wash the clothes and answer calls and bake me chocolate bread. I'd read him stories while he worked and serve him seaweed tea. And I would thank him very much for taking care of me. You guys know that I like to eat my seaweed chips. What do you think seaweed tea would be like? I don't know if I'd drink seaweed tea. Would you drink seaweed tea? What would it be like if an octopus took care of you? Can you think of 8 things that you would have an octopus do all at once? An octopus has 8 tentacles. So what are 8 things you would have an octopus do all at one time? If I could live in a little house, I'd live in a house by the sea. Some days I'd catch the sea in a pail. Some days the sea would catch me. I'd be wet, wet, wet from my nose to my toes, bobbing away from the shore, till the sea changed its mind and carried me back and tossed me alongside my door. That makes me think of a certain Disney movie. Someone is out in the water and then the sea brings that person back. Do you know which movie I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of Moana. Moana loves the sea. When I can live in a little house, I'll live by a house in the sea. I'll live by a house in the sea. Ooh, how are you going to live by a house in the sea? And I'll play in the sand, dancing hand in hand with a crab who is fond of me. If someone's fond of you, that means they like you. We'll play crab games and trade our names. So if you come calling me, she'll hold out a claw to shake your paw, as friendly as she can be. Just ask the way to the crab by the bay, and she'll point the path to me. Whenever you come to the little house that sits at the edge of the sea, if you like, we can play in the sand all day, a crab game or 2 or 3. And I'll call you me, and you'll call me you. And no one will know who is who but us two as we dance around the rim of the sea. Kindergarten, if you could change names of anyone, if you could switch names with anyone, who would you switch names with? Like, wouldn't that be so silly if you called Mrs. Klinger Miss Stoller, and then you started calling me Miss Stoller, and then we would just be so confused because we traded names. All right, kindergarten, so this was your job today. And you know what? It might be a little too bright, so let me bring it down. There we go. This was your job yesterday, kindergarten. So you needed to write your first and last name at the top and then color the picture that showed the setting of the story we just read. So we know that all of these pictures have a little house in them. But what was the setting of that little house? Was that little house by the sea with all of these sea creatures? I see a whale, an octopus, a crab, and a seal. Was the setting of the little house by mountains, or was the setting of the little house by a stream in the woods? So kindergarten, let's think. Our story is called A Little House by the Sea. So we have a clue in the name of the story. So is it the first one, the middle one, or the bottom one? It's the first one, kindergarten. Now remember, if you accidentally colored one of the other pictures, don't fix it. Just leave it how it is, and then I'll look at it later. But it's okay if we make a mistake because now we can talk about it, and we can talk about which picture it should have been and why. So our story is called A Little House by the Sea, and I can use clues in this picture to help me figure out why it should be this picture. That story talked about the sea. Well, this middle picture doesn't have any water in it at all, so it can't be that one. And this one down at the bottom has just a little bit of water, but we know that that kind of water is called a stream. So it wouldn't be that one because a sea has a lot of water in it. We can also look at this top picture and we know that there are some sea creatures in there. The whale that carried her home, rocked her to sleep on its tail, the octopus that took care of her and did all those different things at once, the seal that she played with, and the crab that she traded names with. So kindergarten, it has to be the top picture. Make sure again that your first and last name are at the top, and double check that coloring, kindergarten. Make sure that you use 3 colors and make sure that you used real colors, okay? If you look at your coloring and you're like, I think I can do a little bit better, go ahead and finish your coloring now. All right, kindergarten, I will see you guys later. Oh, no, I won't. I'll see you right now because I owe you this warm fuzzy. All right, kindergarten, now I will see you guys later.